Welcome to the deep dive. The idea of traveling to another country, it conjures up all sorts of exciting images, right?
Absolutely. Visions of adventure.
But for many people, it also brings up the thought of, well, a rapidly dwindling bank balance.
Yeah, that high cost factor is definitely a hurdle.
It's almost like international travel has this automatic expensive label stuck on it, which, can unfortunately put the brakes on some truly incredible adventures you might be thinking about.
That feeling is common, and yeah, it's based on some realities, of course. But what's really interesting is how many effective strategies are actually out there to manage and significantly reduce those expenses.
Right.
It doesn't have to be in either situation, either travel or save money.
Exactly. And that's precisely what we're digging into today for you. We've got this really useful piece, 10 ways smart travelers save money in foreign countries. And our goal, well, it's to pull out the most practical, the most effective tips from it.
Actionable stuff.
Yeah, think of this as giving you the inside track to making that international trip a reality without, emptying your savings. This article really runs the gamut, doesn't it? It covers everything from how you handle your money to just everyday habits while you're away.
It does. And what's fascinating here is how these seemingly small, kind of individual choices can really compound. They add up to substantial savings over the course of a whole trip. It's about adopting a mindset, really, being intentional about spending.
Okay, let's unpack this then. Starting with something that touches practically every purchase you make, credit cards.
Right.
We all appreciate the convenience, and like the article touches on, they definitely simplify things. But using your regular credit card abroad, that can often come with a hidden cost.
Yes, those foreign transaction fees.
Exactly. The article points out these can typically range from, 2% to 4%, which can really add up over time without you even noticing it.
That's a critical point for you, the listener, to consider. Those fees can just quietly erode your travel budget. However, the article rightly highlights that there's a whole category of credit cards specifically designed for travelers, ones that actually waive these foreign transaction fees.
Which is huge.
And what's particularly useful about these cards is that they often come with other travel-centric benefits too.
Absolutely. And it's not just about dodging those extra charges, is it? Many of these travel credit cards offer rewards programs. Think travel points or airline miles.
Nice little perks.
Yeah, which can be a nice bonus down the line. Plus, for some transactions, using a card that handles the currency conversion automatically, it just makes things smoother, more straightforward.
True.
So the key takeaway for you here is probably to do a little homework before your trip. Explore the different travel credit card options out there, compare what they offer, Find one that aligns best with your travel style and spending habit.
Yeah, and this raises an important question for you as you plan. Have you ever actually looked into the specifics of travel credit cards? What kind of rewards or benefits might be most valuable for your kind of travels? A bit of pre-trip research that can really, really pay off.
Okay, good point. Right. Shifting gears from how you pay to where you'll be laying your head at night accommodation.
A big chunk of the budget usually.
Totally. The article suggests that if saving money is a priority, you might want to look beyond traditional hotels and resorts. Their recommendation, hostel.
That's also, yeah.
Now, I know for some people, the word hostel might bring up certain images. Maybe not always the most glamorous.
That's completely understandable. There are definitely some, let's say, outdated stereotypes floating around.
Right.
But what's fascinating is how much the hostel scene has evolved. While being budget-friendly is still, core to their appeal, many modern hostels offer a surprisingly wide array of amenities.
Well, the article even mentions things like live music and swimming pools in some cases. Think of them as more community-focused, maybe experience-driven, rather than just a cheap bed.
Seriously. Live music and a pool for potentially a fraction of the hotel price. That definitely challenges some of those older perceptions.
It really does.
And as the article notes, they can be fantastic, especially if you're traveling solo. It's a really organic way to connect with other travelers.
Built-in social aspect.
But the article also wisely advises doing a little research on the specific hostel you're considering. Read reviews, check its location.
Crucial.
And also be aware of basic hostel etiquette and maybe what essentials you might want to bring for a comfortable stay in a shared environment.
That bit of preparation is absolutely key for a positive hostel experience. Understanding the social dynamics of a shared space, having your own basic necessities, like toiletries, maybe earplugs.
Oh, yeah, earplugs. Good call.
It can make a big difference in how much you actually enjoy your stay. Okay, so you've got the right financial tool, maybe a cost-effective place to stay. Next up, navigating the world of foreign currency.
Cash versus card.
Right. The article makes a really important point. Even in our increasingly digital world, where cards are widely accepted, you probably can't rely on them exclusively when you're traveling abroad.
No, definitely not.
There will be situations where you absolutely need to have some local currency in your pocket.
Precisely. Think about those smaller local vendors, maybe bustling markets, or even just for tipping in certain cultures.
Good point. Tipping.
Having some local cash on hand gives you flexibility and avoids potential hassles if, a card reader isn't available or working.
So how do you get it?
Well, the article suggests a couple of options for getting that initial bit of currency. You could arrange it through your bank before you leave, or you could exchange some upon arrival at the airport.
Okay, but here's where it can get really interesting and where you can potentially save the timing of your currency exchange.
The rates.
Yeah. The article stresses the importance of trying to exchange the bulk of your money when the exchange rate seems favorable. It's not just about where you exchange, though. Avoiding those airport kiosks with their often less favorable rates is probably a good tip.
Usually is, yeah.
But also when you make the exchange.
That's right. Currency exchange rates are constantly in flux, influenced by a whole range of global economic factors.
So it's tricky.
It is. While predicting the exact best moment is, well, impossible, really, being aware of general trends and perhaps monitoring the rates leading up to your trip could potentially lead to significant savings compared to just exchanging everything last minute.
Right.
You might even consider exchanging in smaller amounts over time if you see a favorable trend developing.
Interesting strategy. Okay, now let's talk about getting around once you've actually arrived at your destination.
Transportation.
Yeah, the article flags renting cars and relying heavily on taxes as expenses that can really, really eat into your travel budget.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Especially in major cities.
And their suggestion, embrace the local transportation. Thinks buses, trams, subways, the same systems that the locals use day in and day out.
This is where you can not only save a significant amount of money, but also, often, gain a much more authentic experience of the place you're visiting.
That's a great point.
The article provides a really helpful specific example: discounted train tickets and the London travel card or Oyster card during off-peak hours.
Right, the Oyster card.
Yeah. For those unfamiliar, these cards offer significantly cheaper fares on London's public transport network. That really illustrates how substantial the savings can be if you just do a little research into the local transport options.
That London example is fantastic. It's such a tangible saving. It really highlights that being strategic about when you travel, even within a city, can make a big difference to your wallet.
Exactly. Off-peak travel is often key.
So the clear advice here seems to be skip the potentially pricey private transport, really delve into researching the public transportation options available where you're going.
Get to know the system.
And definitely look out for any potential discounts or passes designed for tourists or, like you said, off-peak travel.
And connecting this back to the bigger picture, using local transport often not only saves you money, but, can also be a much more sustainable way to travel.
Good point.
And it can expose you to aspects of local life you might otherwise just completely miss.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've covered getting your finances sorted, finding budget-friendly accommodation, navigating local transport. Now, how about finding ways to save even before you book anything? The article talks about actively looking for and unearthing travel deals.
The hunt for the bargain.
Yeah. This is where a little bit of proactive online searching can really pay off. The article mentions specific online platforms like TripAdvisor and Booking.com as good starting points.
Right, the big aggregator sites.
What are those exactly?
They're basically websites that compile deals on flights, hotels, activities, you name it, from a whole range of different providers, all in one place. Saves you time hopping between sites.
Gotcha. And it's not just those big aggregator sites, right? The article also suggests tapping into the power of social media.
Oh, yeah. How so?
Following specific travel brands like Expedia or maybe major hotel chains like Marriott, you never know when a flash sale, a limited time offer, or maybe a special package deal might just pop up in your social media feed.
Interesting. So being plugged in.
Yeah, it's about being actively engaged in your search for potential savings rather than just passively waiting.
What's interesting is how the travel industry increasingly uses these digital platforms to directly reach potential travelers with, tailored offers.
Yeah.
By following these brands, you're essentially putting yourself in the loop for potential discounts you might otherwise miss completely.
Right. Makes sense. Okay, now this next point is something that might feel a little outside the comfort zone for some of us,
Uh-oh.
but it can lead to significant savings in certain parts of the world. The art of haggling.
Bargaining, yes.
The article specifically mentions countries like India, China, and Mexico, where bartering in local markets is, well, a common and kind of expected practice.
And in many of these cultures, haggling isn't seen as rude or confrontational at all. It's often a customary part of the transaction, almost a bit of a social interaction, as well as a way to agree on a price.
Right. The article rightly points out that not engaging in some polite negotiation could mean you end up paying significantly more for goods than you otherwise would.
Exactly. So while the idea of haggling might feel a bit awkward at first, especially if it's not something you're used to.
Yeah, it can be intimidating. The article reassures us that these skills can actually be learned online. There are resources and guides available that can give you some helpful phrases, some strategies.
Preparation is key.
And a really key piece of advice they give is to do a little research beforehand on the typical prices for the kinds of things you're interested in buying. That way you have a reasonable baseline for your negotiations.
That pre-trip research is absolutely crucial for effective haggling. And respectful haggling, too.
Yeah.
You want to aim for a price that feels fair to both you and the local vendor, you know?
Good point. Fair price. Okay, let's move on to a more practical aspect of your trip. What you actually pack in your suitcase.
Packing light.
Yes. The article emphasizes the importance of traveling light as a direct way to save money. And the link here is avoiding those dreaded airline baggage fees.
Ugh, the worst.
Overweight charges, checked bag fees, they can really add up, especially on budget airlines.
These fees can indeed take a significant chunk out of your travel budget, particularly if you're taking multiple flights or traveling for, an extended period.
So what's the fix?
Well, the article wisely recommends learning and utilizing efficient packing techniques to really maximize the space in your carry-on luggage.
Absolutely. There are so many clever packing hacks out there these days, rolling your clothes instead of folding.
The rolling trick.
Using packing cubes to compress items, all designed to help you fit more into a smaller space and stay within those carry-on weight and size limits.
Right.
Mastering just a few of these techniques can lead to pretty considerable savings on baggage fees over the course of your trip.
And it often encourages a more minimalist approach to what you bring in the first place, which in itself can be quite liberating.
That's true.
Not having to lug around a huge suitcase can make your actual travel experience much smoother, much easier.
Couldn't agree more. Now, here's a seemingly small thing that the article highlights, but it's something we often overlook, and it can really add up cost-wise.
Go on.
Carrying a refillable water bottle.
Simple but effective.
Yeah. We often don't consciously track how much we spend on those single-use plastic water bottles, especially when we're constantly on the go exploring a new place.
It's a surprisingly easy expense to underestimate, isn't it? Buying bottled water multiple times a day, every single day of your trip.
Yeah.
That can become quite costly. The article positions having a reusable water bottle as a fantastic double win. It not only saves you money in the long run, but it's also a much more environmentally responsible choice.
Exactly. And the convenience factor is a big plus, too. The article points out that you can usually find places to refill your bottle easily. Hotels, museums, even some restaurants and cafes often have water stations now.
Yeah, they're becoming much more common.
It's a simple habit to adopt that has a significant positive impact on both your wallet and, well, the planet.
It's straightforward, yet incredibly effective. A great strategy for saving money and just being a more mindful traveler overall.
All right, last but certainly not least, let's talk about those moments when hunger strikes while you're out and about.
The hanger struggle is real when traveling.
It is. The article touches on the issue of making impulsive and, let's be honest, often overpriced food purchases when you're on the road or in the air and your stomach starts to rumble.
That feeling of being suddenly ravenous when you're in an unfamiliar place, yeah, it can definitely lead to less than ideal budget decisions.
For sure.
When you're hungry and your options seem limited, you're often more likely to just grab whatever's most convenient at that moment, regardless of the price tag.
So what does the article suggest?
Packing your own nutritional snacks. It's a really smart one.
It truly is. Having a selection of things like, say, Dried fruit, nuts, granola bars readily available gives you that energy boost.
Yep.
And it can tide you over until you can find a more affordable and potentially healthier meal option later on.
Exactly. And the article even recommends making a quick stop at a local grocery store shortly after you arrive at your destination, just to stock up on these kinds of snacks.
Oh, that's a proactive move. I like that.
Yeah, it's a budget-savvy strategy.
Mm.
That initial visit to a local grocery store allows you to be prepared for those unexpected hunger pangs without having to resort to those, often overpriced tourist traps or airport kiosks.
Right.
You'll have control over your choices and your spending.
So to recap for you listening, we've really taken a deep dive into a pretty comprehensive set of strategies for keeping your expenses down while you're exploring the world.
Quite a list.
Yeah. We've talked about making smart financial decisions with things like travel credit cards, saving significantly on accommodation by considering hostels.
Being strategic with currency exchange.
Right. Opting for local and affordable transportation and actively seeking out those money-saving travel deals.
Plus, we looked at the potential of haggling in certain cultures, the benefits of packing light to avoid those airline fees.
The simple yet powerful act of carrying a refillable water bottle, and the wisdom of always having your own snacks on hand.
And as we've highlighted throughout our discussion, it's really not about sacrificing the joy and, the richness of the travel experience itself.
No, not at all.
It's more about making informed and intentional choices across various aspects of your trip. These small shifts in how you approach finances, accommodation, transportation, even those everyday habits, they can collectively lead to surprisingly substantial savings.
Exactly. It all boils down to a bit of smart pre-trip planning and then just being a little more mindful of your spending habits while you're actually traveling.
Planning and awareness.
So, here's a final thought for you to really chew on. Think about that international trip you've been dreaming about. Looking at all these strategies we've discussed today, which ones could you realistically see yourself implementing?
Good question.
And if you were to put even just a few of these tips into practice, how much further do you think your travel budget could potentially stretch? Opening up even more possibilities for your adventure. It's pretty exciting to consider, isn't it?